The 2000 Boca National Building Code does not explicitly address the routing of wiring through elevator machine rooms. The 1999 National Electrical Code (NEC) Section 300.22c states that wiring methods shall be concealed within walls, ceiling cavities, or other approved raceways. Section 110.12 states that the equipment, materials, and methods used in an electrical installation shall be approved. As the authority having jurisdiction, or OJ, the state university has the authority to enforce additional requirements beyond the minimum code requirements. The newly adopted elevator code may contain specific requirements regarding the routing of wiring in elevator machine rooms. Since the project was bid before the adoption of the new code, the AHA may grant an exception or variance based on several considerations. Firstly, pre-existing conditions. The university may acknowledge that the wiring was installed according to the codes in effect at the time of bidding. Secondly, electrical safety. The AHA may determine that the wiring poses no electrical hazard, even though it is not located in a fire-rated room with a ceiling. To address the situation effectively, negotiation and mitigation are key. Contact the elevator inspector and explain the situation. Express your willingness to consider alternative routing options that meet the inspector's concerns. Propose solutions such as installing fire-rated enclosures around the wiring or adding a fire-rated ceiling to the machine room. Provide evidence of electrical safety such as calculations or independent inspections to demonstrate that the wiring does not pose a hazard. If necessary, consult with the university's legal counsel to determine your rights and options. While the NEC and Boca do not explicitly prohibit routing wiring through elevator machine rooms, the AHA may enforce additional requirements based on the newly adopted elevator code. It is important to negotiate with the inspector and explore alternative solutions to meet the inspector's concerns while maintaining electrical safety and code compliance. When navigating code compliance, especially with changes during a project, several factors come into play. The authority having jurisdictions, or OJ's, interpretation and enforcement are paramount. In this instance, the state university acting as the AHA introduces a layer of complexity, particularly with the adoption of an elevator code after the project bid. Let's break down key considerations and potential strategies. Firstly, understanding the code landscape is crucial. The 1999 NEC and the 2000 Boca Code serve as the baseline for the original bid. These codes may not explicitly prohibit wiring routing through elevator machine rooms. However, the NEC emphasizes concealed wiring within approved raceways as stated in Section 300.22c and adherence to approved materials and methods as stated in Section 110.12. The absence of explicit prohibition does not automatically grant permission. The AHA possesses the authority to interpret and enforce codes, potentially imposing stricter requirements. The introduction of a new elevator code mid-project shifts the landscape. This new code likely contains specific regulations concerning wiring within elevator machine rooms. It's essential to obtain a copy of this code and thoroughly understand its requirements. This understanding forms the basis for informed negotiation. Secondly, the AHA perspective is critical. Acknowledge their authority and demonstrate a willingness to cooperate. Open communication and a collaborative approach can often lead to mutually acceptable solutions. Highlight the pre-existing conditions. Emphasize that the wiring was installed according to the codes in effect at the time of the original bid. Present this as a good faith effort to comply with existing regulations. Address safety concerns proactively. Provide evidence that the current wiring configuration poses no electrical hazard. This could involve calculations demonstrating proper conductor sizing, overcurrent protection, and grounding. Independent inspections by qualified electrical engineers can further validate the safety of the installation. Explore mitigation strategies. Propose solutions that address the inspector's concerns without requiring complete removal of the wiring. This could include 1. Installing fire-rated enclosures around the wiring to provide additional protection. 2. Adding a fire-rated ceiling to the machine room to meet the new code requirements. 3. Rerouting the wiring within the machine room to minimize its exposure. 4. Utilizing conduit systems that offer enhanced fire resistance. The goal is to find a compromise that enhances safety and complies with the intent of the new code. Thirdly, negotiation and documentation are very important. Document all communication with the elevator inspector and the AHJ. Keep a record of meetings, phone calls, and written correspondence. This documentation can be valuable if disputes arise later. If negotiations stall, consider seeking guidance from the university's legal counsel. They can help clarify your rights and options under the existing contracts and applicable codes. Remember that the AHJ has a responsibility to ensure safety. By demonstrating a commitment to safety and code compliance, you can increase the likelihood of a favorable outcome. Be prepared to compromise and adapt your approach as needed. Code compliance is not always a straightforward process. It often requires careful consideration of various factors, including existing conditions, code requirements, and the AHJ interpretation. Navigating these complexities through open communication, collaboration, and a commitment to safety can lead to successful resolution. In this specific scenario, the key is to demonstrate that the existing wiring, while not fully compliant with the newly adopted code, does not pose an unacceptable safety risk. By offering mitigation strategies and working collaboratively with the AHJ, a mutually agreeable solution can often be reached. Furthermore, consider the potential impact of the changes on the project budget and timeline. If the new code requirements necessitate significant rework, it may be necessary to negotiate additional compensation or an extension of time with the university. A clear understanding of the contractual obligations and potential cost implications is essential. Throughout the process, maintain a professional and respectful demeanor. Building a positive working relationship with the AHJ can facilitate smoother negotiations and a more favorable outcome. Remember that the goal is to find a solution that meets the intent of the code while minimizing disruption to the project. Also, think about the long-term implications of the wiring installation. While meeting the current code requirements is essential, it's also important to consider future maintenance and potential upgrades. Ensure that the wiring is accessible and easily serviceable. This can help prevent future code compliance issues. Also consider the potential for future changes to the elevator code. Staying informed about upcoming code revisions can help you proactively address potential compliance issues. Consider consulting with industry experts or attending training sessions on elevator code requirements. This can enhance your understanding of the code and improve your ability to navigate complex compliance issues. Remember that code compliance is an ongoing process. It requires continuous learning, adaptation, and a commitment to safety. By staying informed, communicating effectively, and working collaboratively with the AHJ, you can ensure that your projects meet the highest standards of safety and quality. Specifically, regarding Section 300.22c of the NEC, which addresses wiring in ducts, plenums, and other air handling spaces, it's important to understand its applicability to elevator machine rooms. While elevator machine rooms are not typically considered air handling spaces in the traditional sense, the AHJ may interpret this section as applicable if the machine room is used for ventilation or air circulation purposes. If the AHJ takes this position, you may need to demonstrate that the wiring methods used in the elevator machine room comply with the requirements of Section 300.22c. This may involve using plenum-rated cables or enclosing the wiring in metallic conduit. Also, regarding Section 110.12 of the NEC, which requires that electrical equipment be installed in a neat and workmanlike manner, it's important to ensure that the wiring in the elevator machine room is properly supported and secured. The wiring should be installed in a way that minimizes the risk of damage or accidental contact. Additionally, the wiring should be labeled and identified to facilitate future maintenance and troubleshooting. Consider the use of cable trays or other support systems to organize and protect the wiring. Also consider the use of junction boxes or pull boxes to provide access to the wiring for future modifications or repairs. Remember that a well-organized and properly installed wiring system can contribute to the overall safety and reliability of the elevator equipment. Finally, document the rationale behind the wiring installation. Create a detailed record of the code requirements that were in effect at the time of the original bid. This documentation can be valuable in defending your position if disputes arise later. Include photographs or diagrams of the wiring installation. This can help demonstrate that the wiring was installed in a workmanlike manner and in accordance with industry standards. Also, include any calculations or test reports that support the safety of the wiring installation. This documentation can help convince the AHJ that the wiring does not pose an unacceptable risk. Also consider obtaining a written opinion from a qualified electrical engineer. This opinion can provide additional support for your position and demonstrate that you have taken reasonable steps to ensure the safety of the wiring installation. Remember that thorough documentation can be a valuable asset in navigating code compliance issues. It can help you demonstrate that you have acted in good faith and that you have taken all reasonable steps to comply with applicable codes and standards. It's necessary to communicate professionally and respectfully with the elevator inspector and the AHJ. Building a positive working relationship can facilitate smoother negotiations and a more favorable outcome. Avoid getting defensive or argumentative. Instead, focus on presenting your case in a clear and concise manner. Be prepared to listen to the AHJ concerns and address them in a thoughtful and responsive way. Remember that the goal is to find a solution that meets the intent of the code while minimizing disruption to the project. By maintaining a professional and respectful demeanor, you can increase the likelihood of a successful outcome. In addition to the specific code requirements and negotiation strategies, it's also important to consider the broader context of the project. The state university may have specific policies or procedures regarding code compliance. Familiarize yourself with these policies and procedures and ensure that your actions are consistent with them. The university may have a designated code compliance officer or department. Contact this individual or department for guidance and support. They may be able to provide valuable insights into the university's expectations and help you navigate the code compliance process. Consider involving the university's legal counsel in the negotiations. They can provide legal advice and represent your interests in discussions with the AHJ. Remember that the university has a vested interest in ensuring that the project is completed safely and in compliance with all applicable codes and standards. By working collaboratively with the university, you can increase the likelihood of a successful outcome. Finally, it's important to learn from this experience. Code compliance is an ongoing process. By reflecting on the challenges you faced in this project, you can improve your ability to navigate code compliance issues in the future. Identify any areas where your knowledge of the code was lacking. Take steps to improve your understanding of these areas. Consider attending training sessions or workshops on code compliance. This can help you stay up to date on the latest code requirements and best practices. Also, evaluate the effectiveness of your communication and negotiation strategies. Identify any areas where you could have been more effective. Develop strategies for improving your communication and negotiation skills. Remember that continuous learning and improvement are essential for success in the construction industry. By learning from your experiences, you can become a more effective and knowledgeable professional.